ghost things? All right, we are live. Welcome to Ghost PM. I am your host, Roger Belt, along with
Michelle Fitzpatrick from Timeless Dimensions, and we have a very, very special guest tonight, Dr. Chuck Kennedy. And this is going to be a fantastic show, you all. He's got some really fascinating stuff to talk about with his Project PSI. His partner is Miss Christina Rake, and we're going to talk all about that and just blow your all's mind. So if we're ready to begin, Mr. Chuck, would you like to give us a little bit of background about what Project PSI is and the purpose it serves?
All right. Well, it basically started 45 years ago this week. That's when I went on my first investigation. And so I started as a ghost hunter 45 years ago.
Okay.
Long before it was popular on TV.
Right.
Over the years, I then got into science, licensed nursing home, and I have a PhD in neuroscience. And I always felt that the science and the paranormal would come together. And so a while back, I started actually mixing science with the paranormal probably about 10 years ago when I created a process called forensic EVPs. Mm-hmm. And that's where I'd use EVPs to solve some of the historical mysteries. If you look at the St. Valentine's Day Massacre in Chicago, if you Google it, the story is the same. 2 cars pulled up in front of 2122 North Clark. 4 guys got out. 2 were plainclothes. 2 were uniformed cops. They went inside, lined 7 guys against the wall, and gunned them all down.
Oh, my.
So the big question is, who were those 4 guys? And if you Google who the 4 guys were, you'll get a list of 25 people. Obviously, 21 of them are wrong.
Right.
So we decided we wanted to know the truth. Everybody believes in ghosts. I don't believe in ghosts. I want to know. So we started out with all the people that were involved. And needless to say, they're all dead. And the dead can't lie. So I went and I got EVPs from all the people that were involved. All the suspected hitmen, as well as the 7 guys that got killed. And we asked them, who was it that shot you? And we got our answers. And then I moved on. Being a Kennedy, on the 50th anniversary of JFK assassination, I wanted to know what the history was with JFK.
Okay.
And once again, being in Chicago, Jack Ruby, if you remember, Jack Ruby killed Oswald in the basement of the police station down in Dallas.
Yes, I am familiar with it.
But Jack Ruby was raised here in Chicago. He's buried in Chicago under Jacob Rubenstein. So I went out, found Jack Ruby's grave, and I searched to interview all the dead people that were associated with the story. And everyone from Lyndon Johnson to JFK himself. I got EVPs of JFK right in Dealey Plaza about 4:30 in the morning one night. And so by using forensic EVPs, I've been able to answer a lot of the historical questions. Do you all remember the movie Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid?
Yes, sir.
All right. And they got killed down in South America.
Bolivia, wasn't it?
But the rumor is that they paid people off to tell that story. And if so, where are they buried? Well, I was living in Fort Worth, Texas for 2 years in the old historic stockyards, and I found out that if you Google a picture of the Fort Worth 5 It's the only picture of Butch, Sundance, and the hole-in-the-wall gang, and it was taken right there in Hell's Half Acre in Fort Worth, Texas.
Nice.
At a place, the mystery woman that went down to South America with them, they met and got married in Fort Worth, Texas. After she came back to the United States, she ran a brothel in Fort Worth, Texas on the south side all the way to 1962 when she accidentally set her bed on fire, smoking in bed, and killed herself. So once again, using EVPs, we got the answers to these problems.
Right.
And so then I moved on to other things.
Oh, okay.
We always hear that when a ship goes I'm sorry?
Oh, I just wanted to, for our guest, and actually for myself, we're all familiar with the electronic voice phenomena, the EVP. What makes the way you do it different with it being forensic EVP versus the way most people would do it?
Using a variety of filters, frequency selective filters, usually the problem with EVP is background noise in the background, traffic noise, all kinds of different things. And so I created this process where I can sit there and actually filter out the background noise. And it's really more of it's almost like an art. It's something you have to practice. Marsha Mack did a big demonstration on it last week at the Chicago Ghost Conference. It's like learning to play a musical instrument. Sometimes you put things in there and it doesn't work. You back them out, start again, start all over. But the thing is, when you're done with it and you get it amplified, you get it totally filtered, totally amplified, most of the time that EVP sounds like that ghost is sitting next to you.
Right.
No, that's cool.
And it's all in the filtering and amplification. And the problem, most people, if they have a background noise, they want to wipe it out completely. But did you ever look at the Jumbotron at a ball game? If you're sitting across the field, you look at that Jumbotron and you see this nice clear picture. But if you're right underneath the Jumbotron and you look up at it and you see there's a bulb that's burned out, there's a bulb burned out, and you see this haphazard picture because your eyes can't blend it all in. So the EVP is pretty much the same way. You don't want to wipe out all of your background noise. You just want to push it in the background about 15 decibels so it's still there to fill in those gaps. Sure. And then the EVP makes sense.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I've been fortunate to catch several EVPs in that background noise. Yeah, so it is important. I agree with you.
Yeah, but you want to reduce it. You don't want to cut it out completely because if you cut it out completely, you're also cutting out half of your EVP.
Exactly. Excellent. Excellent. Thank you for answering that question so our listeners, might see where the difference is there. So
I'd be interested to
So then I went and you always hear when a boat goes down, a ship goes down, there's all these souls that were lost. I wanted to find these souls. So I built an underwater robotic to get with two-way audio and video so I could get EVPs underwater. Sound travels 5 times farther underwater than it does through air, and you don't have background noise. And I used it in Chicago. I used it down in Missouri. I did a ghost tour for 2 years down in Branson, Missouri, and Missouri has several man-made lakes. And when they created those lakes, they flooded valleys that included towns. And some of those towns had cemeteries. And so I'd go out in a boat, and I'd dump Neptune into the water and take it down, and I could get EVPs underwater. Now, it always sounds exciting that I'm out in this boat getting EVPs. The reality was I was in a canoe with about $5,000 worth of computer equipment, hoping I wouldn't get swamped, because then I'd lose all my gear. But the reality is, underwater EVPs are really cool. I used it in Missouri. I used it in Texas. And so that was a lot of fun. But then when I started Project Psi, what I wanted to do, I know a lot of really, really good mediums and some that are mediocre. But I got an EEG machine. My PhD is in neuroscience, and you always read that the mind has a third eye. And I wanted to see this third eye in action. So I got an EEG machine and started doing brain mapping of mediums when they're communicating with spirits.
Right.
And I did 108 EEGs, and the center of psi is not the pineal gland, which is located buried in the bottom of the brain. The center of psi is right behind the left ear. And I can see the changes in the brain waves when a medium is communicating with a spirit. So we were able to sit there and identify how a medium actually communicates with a spirit. We found some mediums that thought they were mediums. They weren't lying. They believed that they really were mediums. But when I did the brain waves, it showed that it really was coming from the region of imagination.
Oh, wow.
So,
well, what about manifestation as well? If someone believes strongly that they have the gift, and if they believe it so profoundly, do you think that they can manifest an entity to appear and talk with them?
I haven't seen any evidence of that.
Okay.
What I've actually found is the people that think they have a gift and really don't, they just live in their own little delusional world.
Okay.
But I haven't seen any contact with the spirit.
Okay.
What we also did was the paranormal community. I felt, it's been good to me for 45 years. I wanted to give back to the community.
No.
So what we did was I created a team of 8 amazing mediums all around the country, from Las Vegas, Missouri, Topeka, Kansas, Texas, Chicago, Michigan, Ohio, Maine, New York, and Georgia. And these mediums are great. What we started doing is I had them focus on, and we took some training on remote viewing. Lines of the CIA Stargate program, and actually part of the Soviet remote viewing program.
Yes.
And we started finding missing people.
Incredible.
Missing kids, especially.
Yeah.
And we solved, well, the first 8 weeks we found 6 kids. Then we found where we had some delays where we couldn't find a missing person. Fortunately, the few missing people we came upon, they were found on their own and found alive. But over the past 10 months of doing remote viewing, we've identified in dozen missing persons. We either brought them home or was able to identify where their body was to provide closure for the families.
Oh,
and that's just an amazing thing. Can you imagine if one of your family members went missing, and while they're missing, life just goes on, and that had to not know. It's one thing to lose a family member to violence, but to not know what happened to them, that's got to be horrible.
It would be excruciating. Yes. Yes.
So we figured, we could even get closure. We helped locate a young girl, 19-year-old girl that was kidnapped into a human trafficking ring all the way around in the Ukraine.
Oh, my goodness.
There's no boundary to this at all. And we've had a lot of good success with the various authorities. When I call them up and I tell them I have a team of mediums, this is what we saw, this is the profile put together.
Mm-hmm.
And one of our mediums is very good at seeing things. A couple of them hear things, and a couple others will see things but seem slightly different. And so the one would sit there and say, I can see the kidnapper. She'd describe them to me. We'd locate the missing child, get the missing child home safely. And then when we see online the picture of the perpetrator, he looks just like what my medium would describe. So I says, are you any good with art? Can you draw this guy? And she goes, well, not really. So I said, what about the software for identifying faces that police use? When you report a crime, they bring in, it used to be, they bring in a sketch artist that was a true sketch artist. Now it's done by computer.
Right.
You pick this hairline, that forehead, this nose, these eyes, and until you get the person you want.
Right.
So I went out and bought the software and sent it to the team. And in one case, Cheryl was able to. She drew a picture of the kidnapper. Sadly, this excuse me, the woman, who was about 62 years old, she was found dead, but we were able to identify where she was buried. And Cheryl had a picture of the kidnapper. The police said, they can't use it as evidence, but when they found the guy, they knew they had the right guy.
Mm-hmm.
So that was pretty cool. So we're trying to use the paranormal to sit there and help society and give back to the community and show the value of the paranormal, that the paranormal isn't just tripping around in dark basements trying to scare the hell out of you.
It covers a whole vast amount of different things. Yeah, so thank you for saying that. A lot of people do associate paranormal with strictly like ghosts and things like that. So yeah, it's vast. Covers everything that's not normal. So
absolutely.
Roger, you got some questions?
Well, I'm interested in how you guys, because I think it's awesome that you can do that. And is there any kind of specific technique that you use to prepare when you're looking for a missing child or something? To like meditation, any kind of thing that you do prior to?
What I do is I get as much information as I can find about the case, and I post it online and on our website, the Project Psi website, and then I text the team and I go, we got a hot case. They go and look at it, and then they start calling me, and I see this, I see that. The interesting thing is when we first started a year ago, one of them would sit there and say, I see the body under a tree, and the other one will call and say, I see the body next to a creek. And then the third one will say, I see the body under a tree next to a creek. So they all had a similar story. It was slightly different. After 4 weeks, the first one would call me, they tell me what they see. The second one would call me, and I'd swear the two of them had talked, only they couldn't because I was talking to them. And I would get the same story almost word for word, which was really cool. All of their visions, all of their activities synchronized after a couple of weeks of working as a team.
Interesting.
And that was one of the cool things that I found about the whole thing.
Oh my goodness.
Another thing that I'm interested in is when you do the EKG thing or whatever, is that a definite? Does it tell you somebody has an ability or somebody doesn't have an ability, or does it kind of fit in between?
It pretty much in almost every case, it tells me if somebody has an ability. And if they don't have an ability, we use our frontal cortex to think logically, to sit there and work out a problem. So when I wire up a medium, the first thing I'll do is I'll ask them, tell me how you got to my office. And I don't care if they drove out, how they got to my office. They then have to pull up memories of driving down these highways by using empaths in their amygdala, which is processed. But here I get a baseline of them using a logical thing. I then ask them to give me, tell me about the most happiest moment of your life. And again, they're pulling up memories. I can see the memory area of their brains working, but I also see the emotional, the limbic side of their brain coming up where they're emotional because this was so happy for them. And then I get past the baseline, and then I go into, is there a spirit in the room right now? And then all of the stuff for how they got to my house, all of the stuff for the happiest time of their life slows down and goes to a normal rhythm. And then that region of psi starts getting very active because they're communicating with a spirit. Now, I've done several cases of spirit attachment, too. because I do spirit releasement therapy here at Project Side. And I'll take somebody who isn't a medium, but they have a spirit attachment, and they're exhibiting all the signs and symptoms of a spirit attachment. And I wire up their brain. Michelle, I don't want to talk to you. I want to talk to the spirit inside of you. And I get past your conscious brain, and I get into your subconscious. Right. And that's where the spirit's at. And that spirit comes out through the region of psi, the same spot I would expect a psychic to be able to communicate. So that kind of validates that part of the brain right behind below the left ear is in well over 110 EEGs. That's the region of psi. That's how we communicate with the spirit.
Right. Fascinating. Extremely fascinating. I'm enjoying this thoroughly so far.
Yeah.
Back a few months ago, I remember I do a lot of research, and I can't remember exactly what I had posted, but that's when I first met you. You had commented on one of my posts, and I believe it had to do with connecting into alternate realms using your psi technology. Is that true, or did I misunderstand? Are you there, Chad?
Wasn't it?
Oh,
yeah.
It looked like you froze up. Okay, there you are.
Wasn't it a question about deja vu?
Oh, it very well might have been. Yes, sir, it very well might have been. Deja vu. Yes, you're right. Mm-hmm.
And pretty much there's I'm sorry, go ahead.
And deja vu is like you can and in my case, and this is the only deja vu that I can remember, you can go to a place in your subconscious and then one day in reality you pass by and there's that place that you went to. That's what happened with me.
Well, yeah.
I mean, the house that I went to.
What deja vu is. Yeah. The point.
I saw everything exactly like it was in my subconscious whenever I went there.
But I believe the topic we were talking about was, I think it might have had something to do with reincarnation. I don't remember verbatim. I wish I did. But anyway.
It was a great conversation. I remember that.
Yeah. And then I checked out your page, and I saw Reverend Mother Christina Rake with laying down on the bed with all the little thingies on her head and everything, and I was sold right there. It's just bad. Thank you so much for being here. We're gonna have a lot of fun. So the point of putting these EEG electrodes on the head is that's how you are able to monitor the brainwave activity in certain lobes of the brain, etc.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. I monitor 16 aspects of the brain, and plus cardiac from 2 different angles. And so this way, it's a heart monitor as well as a brain monitor, and this way I can map by asking the questions, leading them down the path to using different parts of their brain. I can see what their brain is doing.
Right.
And the idea is, it's no big deal to sit there and find out that, what's 762 minus 413. And you can see, the part of their brain. One of the interesting things is I started by getting a whole list of demographics, including I had 430 criteria that I'm looking at, not just the 16 angles of the brain, the heart,
Oh, it froze up.
kind of health problems they've had, what kind of medications they're on that can affect these things. One of the most interesting was when it is sitting there in spirit, their blood sugar drops dramatically. Now, Harvard School of Medicine, they wanted to see if when the brain is active, will blood sugars drop. So what they did is they sat there and they took kids who were taking their SAT tests. And they did their blood sugar. They had these kids take this test, really work their brain really into overdrive, and then they went back and checked their blood sugars again, and they found they got a drop of about 4 points. And for a healthy person, there's no reason for the blood sugar to drop 4 points. So they thought this was really significant, 4-point drop. But you got to remember, it's about 3 pounds. It's about 2% of our body weight, but it consumes 30% of our sugar, which is energy, and 30% of our oxygen for energy. So I started doing brain waves on mediums, and while this is going on, and I'm interviewing the mediums and asking, how are you feeling? Are you having any side effects? And the mediums are telling me when they're engrossed in a really tight reading, communicating with a spirit, they get dizzy, they get lightheaded, they get shaky, all these different things, all symptoms of a drop in blood sugar. So I started checking blood sugars. I found I could get a really good medium who's communicating with a spirit, and this conversation's going, excuse me, back and forth, and their blood sugar will drop as much as 30 points in 15 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. When Harvard can only get a 4-point drop for somebody taking an SAT. So obviously the amount of energy the brain needs to communicate with the spirit during a reading, that's a lot of energy. Excuse me, energy. The other thing is I monitor their blood oxygenation using a pulse ox. And a normal pulse ox, you want to be above 90. Anything above 90 is good. So I've got these people, they were getting ready to start the reading. I'm asking them about, what road did you take to get here? Their pulse ox is 93, 94, 95, something in that range. But their rate of respiration is only like 16, 17.
Oh, wow.
Start the reading, and they're communicating with the spirit. Now, they're keeping their oxygen level at 94, but they have to breathe 24, 25 times a minute to get that much oxygen into their system to be able to keep the amount of oxygen in the blood.
Right.
So obviously, when a psychic is doing a reading, they consume an awful lot amount of energy, either in the form of sugar or in the form of oxygen. And that was one of the most significant things we found. The other thing is, of the 108 people I tested, about 97%, you always hear that a lot of mediums have fibromyalgia. And yeah, that's true, but that was like 51% had fibromyalgia. What did happen was about 93% had an autoimmune disease. If they didn't have fibro, they had SLE, neurofibromatosis, but they were all suffering from autoimmune disease.
Like lupus and things like that, correct? Guillain-Barré syndrome, lupus.
So those were significant. And as they, oh, excuse me, got this damn dry cough. The interesting thing about it was the more meds they take for them to have their autoimmune disease under control, which is usually steroids, and the medications, the higher dose of medications, it'll control the autoimmune disease. It sits there and shuts down their ability to communicate with the spirits.
Interesting. Very.
So I found that awfully significant also. We also looked at blood type. We looked at the most common blood types for mediums. I also looked at what kind of, did they ever live with cats?
I have 5. What is the typical blood type?
60% of people who live with cats have the antibody to toxoplasmosis,
Oh,
which is a brain parasite.
yes, yes.
So, to what degree does toxoplasmosis affect them? Many of them, surprisingly, a large number of them used to own birds at one time or another.
Right.
Parrots, parakeets, and birds carry psittacosis, another brain parasite.
And
So
it's
it's interesting that
gifts significantly, or does it amplify it? So
I would think that it seems to amplify it for some reason.
interesting.
Because the thing seems to be that that such a high percentage of mediums have this connection, and they're very gifted mediums. I would think that it's amplifying it somehow.
So
One of the other interesting things that I found, aside from the psittacosis and the toxoplasmosis, is not just the medications they're on. Many of them were on heavy-duty medications. But what medication do you think would cause a hallucination? Usually,
go ahead. What medication?
Usually people they jump to a narcotic or something like that. But the number one drug that's used that creates hallucinations is Levaquin, and that's an antibiotic, which is probably what I need right now because I keep coughing.
That's fascinating. I was thinking you were going to say like
I was waiting for him.
something similar to that, but I think he was trying. I think Mr. Roger was trying to ask you a question, sir. Go ahead, Roger.
I was saying, the people that you were bringing up about people that had cats and birds and all this, and how that could affect them. So now, having said that in front of our audience and everybody out there, don't run out and get a bunch of cats and birds so you can catch this disease so that you can be a medium or whatever.
Good point.
Good
point.
Yeah, becoming a cat lady isn't the way to become a medium. That's true.
right.
Most mediums just automatically have a bunch of cats. Mm-hmm.
And one of the cool things too is in looking at the evolution of our brain, we create filters in our thymus. Our thymus, pretty much filters all of our sensories. If you're getting too much pain, you're going to then react and pull your hand back if you touch something hot. So the thalamus pretty much directs and filters all of these sensories. And talking to a spirit is a sense that we have. And one of the interesting things is that we create all these filters. Take a look at anything in your room right now and tell me what you see.
A fireplace.
Okay. What's interesting is what you didn't tell me what you see. You didn't say your nose.
Okay.
Now, why is that interesting? Because our fields of vision, we have two eyes and we have two circles of vision. And because of that, we see our nose. An infant does that all the time. That's why a baby will sit there and they tilt their head to look at us so their nose will get the hell out of the way. And we go, oh, isn't that cute? He's tilting his head. In reality, he's trying to get a clear picture of us to read our emotions. And he turns his head so he doesn't have to see his damn nose. And then as he grows, in the first couple of years of life, his brain starts to do that automatically. It just filters out the nose. The filters that our brain creates. Another one is if you're a young child and you've got imaginary friends, and in many cases it's good old dead Uncle Phil who comes to be with you, and you go tell your mom, oh, Mom, I got this imaginary friend. And she goes, there's no such thing as imaginary friends. Just forget about it. Forget about it. Oh, I see a guy in the hallway. Just forget about it. It's not real. It's not real. And you start to create this filter that seeing things, hearing things is not real.
Exactly.
So a lot of gifted people at a very early age, they create this filter that visions, sounds, voices, all these things that a medium would use or see, they're not real, so they just filter them out. Now they're 25, 30 years old, and they get bits and pieces that squeak through the filter.
Right. Would you
It's
agree?
filtered, it blocks out a lot.
Right. Would you agree that each and every person is born, that these gifts are naturally born because of our souls, and because of social programming? We create all these filters and we kind of
I have
block
to
it
agree.
out.
I think just about everyone is born with gifted, and because
Excellent.
they weren't forced to shut it down,
Mm-hmm.
the gifted people are the ones that it carries through.
Lovely.
I had an instance when I was 9, me and my little brother, where we walked past my next door neighbor's mother who had passed away 2 weeks before. As real as you do, walked right past us on the sidewalk calling her. And of course, the first thing we did, we ran in the house. I'm telling my grandmother and all them, yeah, we just saw a ghost. We just saw a ghost. No, you didn't. There's no such thing. And they just
Right.
kept on until I agreed with them.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that happens very often. One of the things I'm trying to do with the EEG machine is taking people that are slightly gifted because they have this filter and breaking down the filter. So it opens up their path so that they can get their full vision back, their full gift.
Yeah.
I mean, it went away. I didn't see anything anymore. You know.
But they shot you down when you said you saw her, right?
Right.
Yeah. So your brain created this filter that I'm not going to mention it again, because if I mention it again, they're going to call me crazy.
You know.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. You know, we ran in the yard, turned around, looked, nothing's there. So we knew what we saw. You know, run in the house, you know, screaming about it. And next thing you know, we catch World War III because we said we saw a ghost. And my grandmother was really heavily Christian, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And that's a no-no in Christian land. You don't see ghosts and stuff. So, yeah, it got shut down real quick.
But then the Christians will encourage Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny and all of that. So it's like, you know, they shut down the natural intuitive side and then lie to us. So
with fairy tales.
With fairy tales, yes, sir.
Yeah. The only thing that I've kept, I guess, out of all of this is I do have what I call mini vision sometimes. And it just happens when it happens. I have no control over what it does. But I see certain things in like little visions.
Mm-hmm.
And I once told a person about a bunch of stuff that was in a room in her house, and she's in New York and I'm in Tennessee.
Wow.
Yeah.
But,
that's pretty cool.
But it happens when it happens. Like I said, I don't have any control when it comes and what it's going to do.
Yeah, but you haven't worked at cultivating it, have you?
Not that I haven't tried.
Mm-hmm. It does take a lot of work. Meditation.
I have a thing.
Yeah. Really good at meditation.
Meditation are not good friends.
So, I'm sorry.
One or two things happens when I try to meditate. One is I can't stop the train wreck going through my head, or number two, I get so relaxed I go to sleep and wake up and don't remember why I was.
Mm-hmm. That's very common. Very common. So, tell us some of your success stories. You touched on that a little bit earlier, but like just recently I saw a post in Project PSI, which is on Facebook, by the way, for our listeners. And there were a couple like major breakthroughs with your experiments. Can you touch on that a little bit?
Well, one of the things that we're working on, we had the breakthrough that that the brain consumes so much energy. That was a big breakthrough for us to find that out and then quantify it that the brain actually does consume all this energy when we're trying to connect with a spirit.
Right.
One of the other things that we're working on right now is there's so many people. Most mediums are empaths, also, but many people out there are empaths. They just don't have the mediumship for whatever reason. But they walk into a room and they suck up all this energy. And if it's negative energy, then their life takes a dive because now they've got all this energy. And it becomes a roller coaster based on the energy. So using the whole concept again of filters, what I've been doing is getting empaths, getting them into the lab, wiring them up so I can see their brain, and I can see when they're collecting this energy, when it's affecting them.
We're getting just a touch of reverb.
It's hitting them,
for some reason, by the way.
and then using hypnosis, the program, EM, eye movement, and create a filter for them. I'm sorry, what?
I was saying we were getting just a little touch of reverb, a little bit of an echo. Not sure where it's coming from. Yeah.
Let me try moving and changing locations.
Okay.
All right, how's this over here?
Oh, crystal clear. Crystal clear.
Okay. All right. So I've been working with these empaths to control their energy and to control the energy they absorb. So that's been cool. That's going to be ongoing all through 2017, is helping empaths using the hypnosis, neuro-linguistic programming, and EMDR. I can help them get past all of the extra energy that they're absorbing. One of the other cool things we did is the whole EEG machine. I was able to sit there and convert that to a tablet, into a backpack, and a buddy of mine down in Texas who is a medium, a haunted insane asylum, and I wired him up, and then we did an investigation. Well, and into the room, he started seeing things in the corner, in the closet, and and that was pretty cool because we could see it on his brain before he even saw it with his eyes.
Fascinating. Wow. Very cool. Very cool. So, like, if someone was interested in being tested to see if they could, I guess, test for gifts or natural empathic abilities, how would they go about doing such?
I'm sorry, you broke up there and I missed half of that.
Okay, so say like someone would like to find out if they had some gifts or if they had empathic abilities. Would something like what you're doing, would that be able to tell them which gifts they might have, or empathy, or by being hooked up?
Probably through by being wired up while I'm picking their brain, so to speak. Literally picking their brain.
Right.
The thing is, then through the questioning, the line of questioning I could then sit there and identify what their gift is, what their ability is, and then in a one-on-one coaching, we could sit there and help them move on so that they could expand their gifts and expand their abilities.
Exactly.
But I really believe everybody has it. Some just block it out at a young age.
Alrighty. We've got a question in chat from Mary. She would like to know, is there any way that you could remotely test people without them, coming to your state or coming to Chicago? Is there any way to remotely test?
Not for the brain mapping.
Okay.
I can't wire your brain over the internet.
Right.
I wish I could.
I
The
figured as
empath program, I'm consolidating that to where we can do the empath program via Skype.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Did you hear that, Mary?
And because there's so many empaths that are just, and many of them don't even realize they're empaths. They just know they're overwhelmed with all this.
Right.
This they're being bombarded by ideas, and they don't even know what it's called or where it's coming from. But in either case, the program I put together, matter of fact, I just took care of a patient today with it, and it doesn't take real long. But what I'm trying to do is get it all tweaked down to where I can either do it via Skype or do it via a self-help DVD.
Excellent. So Skype and a self-help DVD would be one way for someone who can't get to Chicago to kind of test themselves. We have another question real quick from Rhodey. She wants to know, how do you decide who you will test and who you will not test? Is there like a questionnaire or other tests you have to go through in order to be tested by you?
I've been basically the only criteria for me to test you is you have to ask for it. And I've had people who ask me to be tested, and then when they sit there and they go through the questionnaire, I can see that they've got other issues.
Right.
There was a guy up in Oklahoma that clearly had some psych issues that needed to be resolved before we could get anywhere.
Exactly.
There was another guy down in Texas that had also had some psych issues. So, just because they have psych issues doesn't mean they're not a gifted medium. Using the EEG, I was able to determine when they were going off on a tangent because of their psych issues and when they were actually communicating with a spirit. And several of them, even though, just because you're gifted doesn't mean you're not crazy, too. They're not mutually exclusive.
Well, with that being said, I, in my experience, with a lot of the people, myself included, who has gifts, but did not know because of the family religion aspect within the home, did not know how to nurture that until much, much later. So when I would be speaking to passed on people, of course, my parents are shipping me off, to a hospital or a psychiatric ward or whatever. Right. When it was simply that I had, some of the clairs, clairvoyancy, a couple different clairs I ended up finding out that I had. But yet I was deemed by the medical profession to be schizophrenic, I guess, or bipolar, when really what was going on was I had gifts. So what do you think about that? I know people are crazy, to some degree.
But there's a lot of psychiatrists and a lot of psychologists out there that don't believe in schizophrenia. Mm-hmm. They believe that if you're hearing voices, you have a spirit attachment.
Wow.
The head of the University of Chicago Psychiatric Department, who founded the whole thing in 1901, his name escapes me right now, but anyway, his wife was a medium. When he'd get somebody come in who's hearing voices, he'd turn them over to his wife. She'd do spirit releasement therapy on him, and the guy was fine. And that was pretty cool. I've got a psychiatrist here in downtown St. Charles. She gets different people who have been referred to her for schizophrenia, and they're on heavy medications. And I do a spirit attachment syndrome evaluation, and in many cases, they're just attached. They're not crazy, and we get them off their medications completely.
Right.
So that's pretty cool.
Yes, that is. Absolutely. when really they just need to learn how to tune in and practice and learn how to shut it off when they want to and turn it on when they want to, which takes a lot of practice. I'm sorry, Roger. I'm hogging the questions.
Oh, that's fine. I was sitting here thinking about how I could block my picture for a minute because I need to go take care of some personal business.
Oh, okay.
But
Just
I
put
don't
it
know.
on the tape and block it with a piece of paper like I do when I walk off, if you want, and we'll continue on.
I can do this, and the good doctor here will show till I get back.
Okay.
The whole thing about schizophrenia is a lot of times, the minute you say you're hearing voices, the first thing they do is go, oh, schizophrenia, let's put you on medication. And in reality, schizophrenia is an exclusionary diagnosis. They're supposed to check for everything else, everything from brain tumors to liver failure to adrenal insufficiency, all these other tests. If everything else comes up negative, then it's possible you're schizophrenic. But the minute you say you're hearing voices, the docs want to sit there and well, let's give you a pill and rush you out the door.
They automatically judge, which is so unfair. Yeah.
And there's several in the area now. They just refer them, if you're hearing voices and they put you on the medication and the medication didn't change anything, obviously you're not schizophrenic, so they send them to see me.
Right. And another thing, I do have a question after this comment. And another thing, a lot of the medications that they put these people on, dull all of their senses.
Exactly, and that's the whole purpose.
Seroquel, Thorazine, those really hardcore antipsychotic drugs really just take away any gift you might have. It just pretty much is like a barrier block. I have a question real quick from Katrina Cooper. She's going to be in Chicago, and she would like to know, what is the typical cost for a session with you?
Well, I'm kind of shameless. The people that need this really don't have the money for it, so I don't charge.
Oh, my goodness. Wow. You are amazing.
That may change, down the road with some of these things because I have to pay for the equipment. But as for now, I don't charge for any of these services because the reality is the people that really need it don't have the money for it. But when you look at the whole getting back to the over-medication, if you look at if you have knee surgery, your knee hurts like hell. So they give you heavy morphine. They give you heavy narcotics to sit there and kill that pain. It really doesn't kill the pain. What it does is block the sensors from feeling the pain coming up the spinal cord. And when you look at a lot of the psychiatrists, their argument for schizophrenia is, oh, well, look, we put them on the medication and it stops the voices. Yeah, but it also stops them from hearing anything. They hearing conversations, people talk to them. If you over-medicate somebody, like you said, it shuts down all of their senses. So that's a pretty poor argument. And I've cured a lot of schizophrenia with releasement therapy. If what I'm sorry, was it Katrina you said that's coming to Chicago?
Yes. Yes, Katrina. Let me go back up and get the last name. Well, anyway, yes, Katrina was the one who said she would be in Chicago soon. Katrina Cooper. Yeah, she will be in Chicago soon and would like to come see you.
I'm on Facebook as Chuck Kennedy, also Project Psi, and at the website projectpsi.com. And all of those have the office phone number, 888-583-1976. So if she wants to come, just have her give me a call and we'll set something up.
All right, I'm going to type in this number, 888. What was it again?
583. 1976.
1976. That way they can scroll up and get it again. Okay.
Okay, great. And for the people who may not necessarily be coming to Chicago, if people have questions or they think they've got something going on and they want to talk to me about it, just talk about it. The office is usually open from 10 a.m. till 10 p.m. Chicago time. On the weekends, I do a walking ghost tour in downtown St. Charles. So a lot of times I'm out doing the tour in the evening on the weekend. But other than that, I'm in the office 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. If you ever have any questions, just give me a call.
Wonderful, wonderful. Roger, are you back yet, or are you still away?
No, I just returned. Thank you.
Okay, great. We continued on discussing, a little bit about the way doctors, will prescribe and automatically diagnose without checking any other, which is so unfair to people like myself, because they had put me on medicine, and it wasn't until I connected with a Druid high priestess who was able to teach me how to basically flip a light switch. When I wanted my gifts off, I learned how to turn them off, and it wouldn't affect me at all. And so through hypnosis and a lot of work, I learned how to do that. And once I learned how to do that, all of the things that were happening that the doctors thought were, a mental issue completely went away. How about that? So
Well,
I don't really trust Western medicine anymore. I'm more of...
Well, one of the big issues...
Go ahead.
Yeah, I've spent 30 for medicine, and just about 2 years ago, I was down at a neuroscience seminar down at Baylor Medical Center down in Texas, and we were on the neurology ward, and I was interested in buying a transcranial Doppler to see if that would help with my research. So there's a sales guy there trying to sell transcranial Doppler, cost of $1,000 a piece.
Wow.
And so we're on the ward. We're looking at patients. I'm doing Doppler studies on these brains. And one of the neurosurgeons said, well, what do you plan to use it for? And I go, I'm looking for ghosts. And he really flipped out. What do you mean you're using this? This is neuroscience material. You're looking for ghosts? And I said, yeah. And there's no such thing as ghosts. And I said, so why, you're very adamant about that there's no such thing as ghosts. Why are you so afraid that we might prove life? Why does that bother you so much? And the reality was, and one of the doctors who was Catholic was with me, and he jumped in, and he goes, it isn't the afterlife you're afraid of, is it? And the guy goes, what do you mean? And I said, you're afraid that if we prove that there's an afterlife, then we prove there's a God. And what you're really afraid of isn't ghosts. You're afraid that we might prove there's a God.
Or a creator,
and
or
most of them in the room, they go, yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Well, because a lot of doctors that I've had many surgeries, and I've asked the doctors, the physicians, the surgeons, if they believed in any type of religion where there is a holy person, and they all said no. It was almost like going through school, took that away from them, and it was replaced with science, and that's kind of a shame. You find very few MDs or specific practitioners that really don't believe in a higher power, and yeah,
absolutely.
I was going somewhere with that, and it just left me poof, blonde. Well, let's talk about Christina just a little bit, if you're okay with that. And I mean, she.
Oh yeah.
Obviously, yeah.
I strongly suggest. I mean, I can only scratch the surface of what Christina does. She's head of the Church of Nativity, Old Catholic Church here in St. Charles. The Cardinal of Bishops just voted a couple of weeks ago to bishop staff. So she's going to Old Catholic Church for the Midwest District. She's really busy with her church these days, but she wrote a book a short time ago called God and the Paranormal. And most ghost hunters at one time or another, as we said, you know, you get those good old Southern Baptists, they'll tell you, you can't talk about that stuff. There's no such thing as ghosts. We know they're there, but we can't talk about them. And if you look in Leviticus, you'll see that Leviticus said that you can't have a medium. Well, Reverend Mother Christina spent a couple of years. She has 2 master's degrees in theology. Wonderful. She knows the Bible inside and out. A lot of people say, "Oh, I know the Bible." Yeah, they read it once. But she's studied the Bible inside and out. And then she went further back. You got to remember, Christ was not a Christian. He was a Hebrew. Right. And so she went into the Hebrew teachings from years and years before Christ, and which were the foundations that the Bible was built on. Mm-hmm. And so for all the Christians that say, "Oh, you can't do this because the Bible says so, you can't do that," she wrote a great book about God and the paranormal. And her book takes all of these myths, all of these old wives' tales, and she's gone head to head with a lot of priests, a lot of ministers. And when she walks away, they give her a hug and thank you for the education she gave them. Right. And she would be a great guest on your show because she can take the whole concept that ghost hunters are evil, and ghost hunters are not evil. Mediums are not evil. Mm-hmm. Psychics are not evil. We are not the devil. We are not looking for the devil. We are just looking for the afterlife. And she's got all of the evidence, chapter by chapter, tabbed and ID'd to prove what she found. Yes. And she's a very good medium. She's helped bring home several of these missing people. Wow. No. She's yeah, I'm definitely going to get in touch with her. She's on my friends list, and reach out to her and try to get her in probably in January, because this has been so fascinating. So I'd like to get her input as well. Or, you know, or actually, we like to do something called roundtables occasionally, like about every 3 months. Oh. So maybe we can do like a roundtable with you, Christina, and a few other people that are, you know, somewhat knowledgeable to where in the quantum physics area of this type of stuff. Mm-hmm. And would you be willing to do that later on? Oh, yeah, that'd be great. And quantum physics is basically what led me to the whole Project Psi thing. Now, we know the conscious brain is analog. If you look around the room, you see a continuous picture as your head turns around the room. And that's an analog process, but that's our conscious mind. But if you talk to people who study consciousness like at the Arizona Center for Consciousness, subconscious mind is a quantum mind. And the universe is a quantum, and that's how our brain actually connects to the universe, to the spirits, to the precognition, or to the remote viewing. And it's by using quantum physics. Mm-hmm. And a prime example is precognition. If you like baseball, you watch that base stands out on the mound 50 feet from home plate, and he fires that ball 90 miles an hour. Now that's 132 feet a minute. So that ball is going to get there in or 132 feet a second. That's going to get there in just under a half a second, or just over actually a half a second. So about 0.6 of a second, that ball goes from the pitcher's mound to home plate. Now, we know in neuroscience that for the human brain to recognize... oh, I'm so sorry. Sure, honey, to recognize that the event happened. Some healing energy right now. I'm sending you Ricky. Yes. For the human brain to recognize that an event happened, it takes 0.5 of a second. So that means when that pitcher throws that ball, the first 0.5 of that pathway, the batter standing there, he hasn't even seen the ball left the pitcher's hand yet. Now he realizes the ball the ball is in motion, and there's 1/10 of a second left. So there's no way in 1/10 of a second he can sit there and swing at that ball, but they do, and they hit home runs. And the only explanation for that is precognition.
Nice.
The photons in the subconscious mind are out ahead, 5-10 seconds ahead. They see what's happening. They go back to your brain, and they'd be a low and outside pitch, and you swing low and outside, and you hit that sucker over the fence.
Excellent.
So
excellent example.
the whole role of quantum physics comes into play really strong with precognition. And this has been demonstrated time and time again in the lab.
Fantastic. Roger, I'm going to hand it over to you. I need to go to the little girl's room for a second, okay?
That's fine. You go
Thank you. Be right back.
Very interesting point, though. I never thought about it like that. Because
Well, one of the other things is we know using precognition, let's say your dream date, if you could sleep with any celebrity you wanted, let's say it was Jennifer Lopez. So your dream date is Jennifer Lopez, and we have you all wired up. We're monitoring your heart rate, your breathing, your blood pressure, all of those things that are normal. And excuse me, when Jennifer Lopez walks in the room, all those things are going to change for you. Your pupils are going to dilate, your heart rate's going to go up, it's going to kick up your blood pressure, and your breathing is going to be faster. Now, the interesting thing, if we take somebody and we have them hooked up to those monitors, about 10 seconds before Jennifer Lopez actually walks into the room, and you have no idea she's going to walk in, all of those things start happening. Your eyes dilate, your blood pressure increases because your brain knows she's coming in the room even before you know it. So precognition is a very, very powerful tool. So by using precognition, knowing that you have precognition, training yourself to recognize your precognition, you can sit there and it gives you a huge advantage. You get to know what that person's going to say before they say it. So you have a better response when you're negotiating with that used car salesman.
So that's like an ability in itself, too.
It is. It really is. And it's a quantum physics ability. And we know that the pyramidal cells in the amygdala of the brain, they have microtubules that are coded in a binary fashion. But until you recognize something, they're in a quantum state. They're not actually coded yet. Once you decide, bam, then those microtubules in the middle of the pyramidal cells, they then encode because you came to a conclusion.
Now,
so it's all quantum physics.
I know you're very familiar with people talking about the gut instinct. You know, when your gut starts tightening up and it's telling you that you need to be aware or you need to stay away from a certain thing or don't do this or whatever, you know. That precognition thing, couldn't that all be connected to that too?
It does. It's really powerful. Very few people recognize that they have it. And to be honest, we all have it. We just don't know how to use it.
Well, I'm saying that because there's times when I have those gut instincts that tell me stay away from this or stay away from that person or, you know, you don't want to do that. It's going to be bad, you know. And if I don't listen to it, trust me, it is bad most of the time.
Yeah, I agree with you. And one of the interesting things, like you called it, the gut instinct. We hear that all the time. There isn't a TV cop show that doesn't go, oh, I feel in my gut, this is the guy.
Yeah.
And yeah, a lot of times the gut instinct is way off the mark, but that's because they jumped the gun. There's a lot of science to the way the gut releases enzymes, and those enzymes trigger the brain. And so a gut instinct is a real powerful thing. We always hear about the neurotransmitter serotonin. And serotonin is so powerful in the brain. The reality is 95% of serotonin is not in the brain. 95% of serotonin is in the intestine. But when the gut starts to tighten for whatever reason, it releases serotonin into the bloodstream that goes to the brain and changes the way we think.
There you go.
And so a lot of times what we think started with our gut.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's kind of all connected. You know?
Yeah, it brings it all together.
Whenever something's not right, and I know it's not right, my gut will start tightening up and everything, and the hair will all stand up on my arms and all that stuff. And and it's happened many times. And,
Oh, yeah.
With age, I learned to listen to it, and I don't,
Yeah.
interact with anything that it's telling me to stay the hell away from, so to speak.
As we get older, we learn to pay attention to the things that younger.
Well, I think that's kind of why some people do live to be a little bit older than others. You know, because you learn to listen.
I think you're right.
It's telling you to stay away from such things.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right that we really do. As we get older, if we learn to listen to all the things that didn't work out, we won't fall into the same. But for most people, it takes a few times before we really learn.
It took me quite a while to pay attention. And a lot of those times that I knew I should have, and I'm like, I had that same feeling that I had last time when I got in all that crap. Listen, but I didn't.
But a lot of the decisions we make where we ignore our gut is because we're involved emotionally. We know this used car we're going to buy is probably something wrong with it, but damn, it's got that metal flake paint and it sounds so mellow. And yeah, we got burned last time we bought a Mustang, but we buy it again hoping maybe this time will be different, but it's not. And it's because we let our emotions override our common sense.
Yeah.
As my mother used to say, common sense isn't always so common.
That's true. Well, it is. It's just that most people overlook it.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'll think of
that. Trust me.
Yeah. I think we all know. Yeah.
I think we wouldn't be human if we didn't sit there and take risks and hope for the best.
But there's a difference in taking risks and just being plumb stupid.
Yeah.
And I took it to the point of plumb stupid a few times. And I knew better, And my gut was sitting there telling me that, you know better. You know what happened last time when I told you not to do that crap. But you do it anyway. And of course, when you're younger and everything, it's all about proving how macho you are,
Yeah, how macho and independent. You're the man.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of my patients today, we were talking about that, and I'm telling him, you got to stop making stupid decisions and think things through. Because, but I'm the man. I got a right to make a decision. I said, yeah, but you also have a right to deal with the consequences when you screw up.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Karmic law is, in my opinion, very much real. I am
Oh yeah.
more Buddhist than Taoist, but yeah. Oh, here's a quick question. Since I mentioned Buddhism, have you, during any of your experiments, has any of your clients run into maybe past lives or future lives?
Oh, we do a do a lot of past life regression, and I do a
Okay.
lot of past life regression hypnosis.
Nice.
So yeah, I see a lot of past lives. When Reverend Mother Christina and I had our radio show, I actually hypnotized her on the air, and we did a past life regression on her, going back to several different lives. Here's the coolest thing about past life regression. I do it all. I do parties where you get 4 or 5 of your girlfriends. I'll come over. We'll do 15-minute sessions of past life regression, and you supply the wine and cheese. And it's a whole lot of fun. It's a fun evening, and I then record the whole thing, and you get a CD of yourself being hypnotized going through a past life. So that's a lot of fun. It's really cool, but here's the really neat thing about it. Probably about 80% of the cases, I take the person out. When I hypnotize you, I take you down. You're in a room, and I tell you we're going to go through that door, and there's a long hallway. And on the right side are all these doors, and on the door is a year. And when we get to that door, we'll look at the year, and you tell me if you want to go in that room or not and examine that past life. So I take the people down the hall, and we'll go room to room. And in 80% of the cases, we get to a door, and I go, all right, that was 1860. Do you want to go in that and examine that life? And they tell me, no, that's when I was a dog.
Oh, wow. Huh.
Isn't that
Yeah.
unbelievable? That was the biggest shock of doing past life regression.
Oh, I've
But at
had
one point or another, some of them are surprised because we go in a room and I go, look at your hands. Are you a man or a woman? And they'll look at their hands and they'll tell me about how old they are, whether they're male or female. And a lot of them are really surprised that because, well, they're a woman now and they were a man in 1900. And that's normal. But 80% of them at one point or another were a dog.
I fully believe that. I'm not quite sure how to articulate my thought here, but it's kind of like we have to work our way up to the level of intelligence. So, we could have started out as an ant, and then, worked our way up, and we still are working our way up through our lifetimes in order to reach nirvana. So we may have to come back in the human form several times before, we reach that karmic, pay our karmic debts in order to ascend, basically. So yeah, being a dog in a past life for me makes perfect sense. Perfect sense.
One of the other cool things is there's a lot of scientists that consider that dolphins are the most intelligent animal, even over humans.
Yes.
They're more intelligent than we are, and there's a lot of data to support that. So I started looking at dolphins, and if they're that intelligent, do they have spirits? So I started talking to people who spend a lot of time with the dolphins, and they'll talk about, they were swimming in the ocean and the dolphins are playing. And they said every once in a while, when a dolphin comes out of the water, it breaks the water, jumps in the air, hits the water, and splashes as it goes back in the water. I go, yeah, that makes sense. What's the problem? And they go, every once in a while, they'll see a dolphin come out of the water, go through the air, go back into the water, but there's no wake, there's no ripple, there's no evidence that they ever came out or went back in.
Right, and they also are one of the only species on the planet that procreates for pleasure instead of, so that makes them even cooler.
Yeah, it does. It does. They They enjoy sex just for the sake of sex.
It does. Yeah.
But obviously, these dolphins and porpoises that are coming out of the water and leaving no trace, those have to be the ghost dolphins.
Oh, interesting. You know, I get asked a lot of times when I was really, really active on my paranormal team. I've since moved on to MUFON and ET and all that. Pardon me. But I would get asked a lot of times, like, why don't we ever catch an EVP of a caveman? Where are the cavemen? And my answer to them is, you would be surprised at, you know, when you hear a growl or a grunt, or some language that just doesn't even sound right. I mean, you know, just because
Exactly.
they were, you know, 100,000 years ago or something. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So,
Well,
you know, I found that fascinating that, you know, people will leave all that out and automatically assume that they are speaking to just a person that's passed. It could be an interdimensional being. I myself have seen shadow cats, shadow dogs, you know,
I have too.
of that nature. So we're communicating with a lot more than just
I think it would
people who
be
passed. Absolutely. Yeah.
really interesting to go into, you know, the caves where they did all the cave drawings on and everything.
Mhm.
Apparently they lived there at that point.
Well,
And
yeah,
I-
of course they did.
To go in there and just, you know, leave a recorder running in there.
Yeah, no telling what you would hear, you know, no telling what kind of weird audible.
even right here in St. Charles, I've got EVPs from Potawatomi Indians. When I was down in Branson, Missouri doing ghost tours, I got EVPs from the Osage Indians. In North Texas, I got Cherokees. And everybody thinks that we could go to the farthest corner of the galaxy, and when we get there and we land on that planet, they're going to speak English. And that's insane.
Right.
There's so many different languages. And in Schaumburg, Illinois, it's a northern suburb of Chicago, up until 1955, nobody spoke English. It was strictly German.
Mm-hmm.
And when I go to the cemetery up in Schaumburg, I get EVPs that are in German because that's what they spoke when they died, and that's very, very common.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And a lot of people don't get that. Here's another one, Miss MUFON.
Okay.
A lot of times we get an attachment, and it's not a demon.
Right.
Only on TV is every attachment.
I know where you're going with this, and I totally agree. But go ahead and finish.
But we'll get an attachment that is nasty.
Yeah.
And it does not appear to be human.
Right.
And I'm pretty sure that I'm getting attachments that are alien.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I 100% believe that.
I mean, aliens have to die eventually too. And so why wouldn't their spirits be here also?
And I do think that some of the voices that we catch are ET in nature. I call them interdimensional beings. You know, because because they have to be, unless they have cloaking devices like on Star Trek, which they probably do. But you know, when the veil gets really thin and boom, you know, and we cross, we're picking up them too. You know, so
Sure. Why not? You know.
Yeah, and I had a nasty attachment myself that followed me home from a real, I talked about it before on the show, a real hot spot of a location. And I do not believe that was human at all. And I wouldn't call it a demon either, but it was very, very, very malevolent. And took me a long time to get rid of it. We'll just say that. But absolutely, I agree with you 100%. And then there's good ones too, you know. So the good ones wouldn't attach.
You know, when I get people, they call me up to take one of my ghost stories, and very often they go, "Is it scary?" And I always go, "Do you want it to be scary?"
Right.
I said, because the reality is ghosts are just people who no longer have a body.
Right.
Are most people scary? Most people are not scary. You're not scary.
Yeah.
So,
If they were
you know,
evil
but
in life, then they're going to be evil in death as well. I
yeah, I got
personally don't necessarily
EVPs for
believe that.
John Wayne Gacy.
Yeah.
I did John Wayne Gacy, did a lot of the Chicago gangsters, and yeah, they were pretty nasty, but they were pretty nasty when they were alive.
I agree with
So,
that point, though, that, or it's my opinion, that if you live nasty, you're going to die nasty.
I don't. I'll have to debate you about that, Roger.
I don't think so. I think if you're an asshole when
Well,
you're alive, you're going to be one when you're gone.
well, if they were an asshole while they were alive, and then they are their consciousness has realized that they passed away, and they're stuck in the area or whatever it is, none of us really truly know. What would the point be of being a jerk?
See, that's the point. I have to disagree with you.
Okay.
If I was a jerk on Earth
but part of
and I
the
passed away and
part
realized
of
that I'm
being an
Debate this
asshole.
later. That'll be a good talk for me and you, Roger. We're gonna debate that. Let's. What do you think about that? What do you think about that, Mr. Chuck?
Part of the whole thing about being an asshole is that you have an overactive basolateral amygdala, which is where the ego comes from.
Right.
Once they're dead, they don't have the ego because they don't need it.
And they don't have the organ in the brain as well, the amygdala.
Right.
Yeah.
So they
that's
don't
gone.
have.
So
Now,
ego,
some of them
no
are jerks out of habit. When I talked to John Wayne Gacy and I asked, don't you have any remorse for killing all those boys? He told me, kiss my ass.
Mm-hmm.
And if you research John Wayne Gacy, when they gave him the needle at Statesville and said, do you have any last words, Mr. Gacy? His last words were, kiss my ass.
Right.
So some of the emotions do carry over, but for the most part, they don't have the ego because they don't need it. They don't have the organ to create it, and they don't have the need for an ego because it just doesn't help them there.
Right.
I have to ask the question, what exactly do they take with them over there? Because they apparently have some kind of consciousness, or they wouldn't know how to do stuff.
Like they don't have a voice box, so how do they talk? Energy.
I think a lot of the consciousness they have is what's in their microtubules. That energy, because as Einstein said, energy cannot be created nor destroyed. So the energy that's in their microtubules, that's who they are when they pass. And so some of that energy carries over. And so some of them are not going to be very nice people. But even some of the nasty people, I got EVPs from Al Capone. And he was a nice guy when I talked to him. Of course, he had been dead for 40 years.
Right.
But so there's... So some of them don't need the ego. Some of it's more of a habit. And based on habit, they just don't know how to be nice.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not necessarily violent.
Right. Right.
They just have the habit of talking tough. And so that's what we end up seeing.
Fascinating.
One of the interesting things is a lot of the spirits that I've dealt with, the most interesting, and this is why when I see somebody that's suicidal and expressing suicidal ideation, nobody wants to end their life. What they want is their pain, whether it's physical pain, emotional pain, or psychological pain. They want to end their pain. So they kill themselves. And the reality is they end up taking that pain to the other side. And now they're kind of trapped. Now they don't know what the hell to do. And they're stuck with that pain. And I've helped a lot of them to get past the pain and be able to move on. But this is the one thing that I tell people when I'm dealing with somebody who has... I was talking to a girl the other day who she called me because she's all suicidal. And I said, what do you expect to happen when you kill yourself? Well, then it'll be over. I go, no, that's when it just begins.
Right.
You know, you got that backwards, kiddo. That's when it just begins. And now it's beginning for all eternity. If you think the last 6 months of your life when your parents were on your case, your boss was on your case and you lost your job, if you think that was horrible, the rest of your eternity is going to be even worse because you made this wrong choice now. Why don't we work on getting through this problem right now, and ultimately you'll be in better shape for the long haul.
Exactly.
And it worked out.
Exactly. I got a quick question from chat. There's a couple of us who have noticed a similarity between people who have gifts, and it is a ringing in the left ear, and it can be so high pitched at times that, and it seems to be one ear, not both. With some people, it's the right ear, but for me, myself, and the few people that I've talked to, it's all in the left ear. Is there any correlation to ringing in one ear that signifies anything?
I think, and like you say, the majority of the times, it is the left ear. Mm-hmm. And that's right where the region of psi is. And what I think is happening is when they're communicating with a spirit, when they're doing a reading, when they're connecting with, excuse me, the universe, all of that energy coming into that part of the brain doesn't necessarily affect the ear, but it causes a vibration in the skull right there.
Right.
And that harmonic of the vibration rings the ear. Does that make any sense?
Yeah. Would you be willing to say or consider it almost like a download to the consciousness, subconsciousness?
I think that's probably a great description of what's going on. Okay.
Cool. There you go, Mary. Me and Mary have been talking about that. Me and Mary Strickland have been talking about that for quite some time now, and a few other people. It's our left ears, and sometimes it's so loud, that I've said this before. I feel like I'm getting transmissions from outer space,
Mm-hmm. and it's basically if you take a tuning fork and you strike the tuning fork and you put it up to your skull, you're going to hear this ringing.
Nice,
and basically it's the same way. That origin of psi, the region of psi that's right behind the left ear, is kind of like your psychic modem, your modem to the universe.
Right.
And when that modem is going, it's humming. And that humming is what you hear as the ringing.
Yeah. Fascinating stuff. Fascinating. Hey, people in chat, do you have any more questions? We've got about 10 more minutes before we sign off. So if you have anything else to ask, let's get it in. And while we're doing that, Mr. Chuck, go ahead and remind everybody how they can get a hold of you, what websites you have, Facebook pages, etc., if you would.
I'm on Facebook as Chuck Kennedy. Facebook wouldn't let me keep the Dr. Chuck thing. They don't let you keep titles.
Okay.
So it's Chuck Kennedy on Facebook. I'm at Project Psi, PSI, on Facebook. I'm also at Chuck at projectpsi.com, and also
We're only
1976.
Yeah, I'm only picking up part of the last two that you named off. I only heard about half of it. I had
to get another glass of water so I'd stop hacking.
Oh, okay. We got the PSI one, we got the Chuck Kennedy, and then the other two was real choppy. If you want to name those off again, or
Project Psi on Facebook. www.projectpsi.com.
Okay.
And number is 888-583-1976. And my email is drchuck@projectpsi.com.
Excellent.
And if you have, the biggest problem I have is people have questions, but apparently I come off being very evil and they're afraid to talk to me.
Aw.
I'm really an approachable guy. I'm a nice guy. I swear a lot. I speak 3 languages: English, sarcasm, and profanity.
The higher
But I'm a nice
intelligence
guy. So if you got questions,
Yeah.
just give me a call.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Excellent.
I think we're related. I speak those languages too.
Well, I didn't catch that. What's that?
I said I think we're related. I speak those languages fluently.
Yeah, there you go. We got to be distant cousins, right, buddy?
Yeah. But it's been really great having you on here, and I love this stuff. Man, this is just a lot of this stuff is some people would consider it like sci-fi. You know what I mean? But it's a reality.
It is. But that's the whole thing. We are taking it out of the realm of sci-fi and moving it in to mainstream science, and that's the goal. And one of the studies I forgot to mention that starting in January, Reverend Mother is a healer. I haven't seen her all week. She's been busy. She only lives a mile from me, but I haven't seen her all week. She's been busy. But yeah, I need her to cure my pneumonia. But anyway, she does a lot of curing, a lot of remote healing, and we're going to be doing a study looking at how the healing energy transfers. How does this happen? And we've got a couple of people lined up who are healers from the Philippines. They were trained, they're medical people out of the Philippines, but they're trained in remote healing. We also are going to be looking at, you were mentioning the Buddhists. The Buddhists do a great deal of remote healing. We're going to look at how they do it, what their techniques are, and how that comes into play, and the whole concept of shamanism, and why are shamans so able to sit there and heal.
Right.
And how does this energy work? A big study we're going to be starting in 2017, and that'll be both myself and Bishop Christina, or as we call her in Chicago, the Bish.
You know what would be really fantastic is if they're always inventing new cameras, right, that can see into different realms of, like the night vision and the ultra, what you know what I'm talking about, full spectrum, all this kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
What if they could create a camera with a lens that could actually photograph that energy being put out? That would be awesome.
And what we're going to try to do with both the empath program and the healing program, I ordered a FLIR camera to see if thermally we can see the energy transfer.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be great. Yes.
That really would. To be able to see that would be really cool. So that's one of the things we're going to. And, whenever I do the ghost tours, at the beginning of the ghost tour, I talk to the crowd and I tell them, what is it we're looking for? What do we hope to see? And I have a TV remote control in my hand. And I sit there and I tell them that, we all know what the remote control is. We all have, several of them at home. See the light when I push the button. And I shine the remote control right at the people. And naturally, it's infrared. They don't see anything. But then I take the remote control and I hold it up to the my tablet. And I hit the button and I go, you see the light now? And I go, the cameras can see a wider spectrum. We can only see about 2% of the electromagnetic field.
Exactly.
There's all these things out there that we can't see.
That are not,
but
yes.
The camera increases our vision.
Mm-hmm.
And most pets, cats and dogs, they can see infrared.
Yep.
And that's why a lot of times your dog will sit there and stare at the corner and bark, because he sees somebody standing in that corner that we can't see.
Right. We do have a limited, our human eyes can only see within a limited light spectrum, like you were saying. Are you familiar with David Icke?
I'm sorry, with who?
David Icke.
I've heard of him.
He talks a lot. He likes to talk about the reptilians and the matrix theories and stuff like that. But he goes into great depth about the visible light spectrum and what is outside of that spectrum that we can't see. It's fascinating stuff. So you might want to check it out.
Things all over the place in our room while we're sitting here.
Yeah.
And we don't even know it's here.
Yeah, maybe we don't want to see what's outside of that light spectrum. Ugh.
Mhm.
Might be too much.
It's the reality of reality. There may be a lot of stuff we don't even know about.
All
He
right,
sounds kind of low. What?
let's see if we got any more questions. Everyone knows. Okay. All right, I don't see any more questions in chat.
I said,
So
are you hearing him good? He sounds kind of low on my end.
you what?
Are you hearing him good? He sounds low on my end.
Oh, no.
Can you hear me cough okay?
You sound kind of low.
He does to me too. Yeah, but
I
that's
don't know why.
we're about done. So,
All right. Well, thank you so much for
Yes.
having me on tonight. It was really fun.
Mr. Chuck Kennedy, please, thank you so much at the last minute. This has been a great show. You provided us a lot of really valuable information. And from the bottom of my heart, thank you for jumping in and helping. We'd love to have you back on that round table. We would love to.
Oh, that'd be great. I'd love to be part of it.
Thank you.
Anytime.
Okay.
If we can't get you in on the round table, we'd love to have you come back at some point and update us on everything that's going on with the project.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Cool beans.
All right. Thank you so much. High five, partner.
All right. God bless.
God bless. High five, partner.
All you guys in chat, we love you. Everybody listening that wasn't in chat, we love you. Thanks a lot for coming. And we will do this again on the 30th. We are setting up the round table, so
Yes.
be prepared for that.
That's going to be a good one.
We're not exactly sure yet who we're going to have, so it'll be a surprise.
Yeah. Woo.
For helping me. How's that? Anyway, we're going to say good night. We appreciate everybody. Come back to see us next week, Wednesday. The Paranormal Graveyard is doing haunted castles. So you want to make sure you come and catch that.
Oh, yeah.
Good night, everybody. We'll see you Wednesday.
Good night, and thanks again. Night-night.